you doing today, Ryan?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Tell me, what was life for you growing up?
Growing up, I was a troublemaker. I was anti-authoritarian. I questioned everything. I still question everything, but now I get celebrated for doing that. As a kid, you are told that you might have a problem. You know, you have ADHD if you do that. You are going to be in jail when you grow up if you do that. And I suppose that's the case for some people with those tendencies. If you have a solid enough upbringing, and I definitely did, I had a normal family life. I had two parents that stayed together. I had a nice younger brother. Middle class. I have nothing to complain about from my childhood. When you have a solid upbringing, you can, I think, combine that with a little bit of, I don't want to say drama in the sense of Mean Girls drama,
Yeah.
but drama in the sense of just experimentation and pushing things. So whether it was getting suspended from school for selling firecrackers and keeping track of my profits on a profit and loss sheet when I was, 12 years old, to skipping school, but then also being in AP classes and first chair in orchestra. I sort of operated at both ends of the spectrum. I was in the bad kid crowd. I was in the preppy geek crowd. But at the same time, I never did drugs. I didn't drink. I never did any of these things. So I was able to really get close to the line without stepping over it. And I think that helped me develop a sense of maybe self-confidence, but also just like, hey, why is this thing the way that it is? Does it have to be this way? A necessary ingredient to, I think, entrepreneurship. But at the time, it was just Ryan's a troublemaker. He doesn't want to do what he's told. But I'm really grateful that I had my own back then, because it turned into having my own life now.
Do you feel like you had awareness of who you were at that time, or were you kind of listening to, oh yeah, I am a troublemaker? Or are you thinking, oh, I'm kind of like smart for figuring out how to sell firecrackers in school? Or, well, do you remember like having awareness of where you were at then?
I guess I thought I was a little bit clever at times, but I definitely never, ever, ever thought I'm going to grow up and be rich. I'm going to grow up and make a lot of money. I'm going to be a CEO. I never, ever thought that. When I did give myself the time to be introspective, because I also didn't take myself seriously, almost to a fault. I was sort of the kind of kid that if you wanted to have a serious conversation, I wouldn't be able to do it. I would keep making a little joke, maybe self-deprecatory or whatever. I would just avoid serious conversations. And that also meant that I avoided serious conversations with myself. So even when you're getting to the end of high school and everyone's making that big decision, that's sort of our first big decision we make as kids is growing up is, am I going to go to school? Am I going to go start working? Am I going to keep living with my parents? Am I going to try to travel? Everyone starts making those decisions at around age 16, 17, 18. Even at that point, I just thought to myself, well, maybe I'll try to be a rock star. I was in bands and I was touring. But yeah, if I did think seriously, what's my future going to be? I recall thinking I will be very, very lucky if I can sort of have the same setup that my parents have. So like I grew up in a, 4-bedroom house with a brother and parents, and we had a living room. And I thought in a subdivision, I thought if I really figure things out, if I can stop messing around, this is going to be the best level of success I can hope for based on my skills and or lack thereof. Right. And that is an amazing, perfectly great life. But I just wanted to mention that some people looking for indicators of good entrepreneurs, they sort of think that the person had to be some whiz kid, was like wearing suits at age 14 and rubbing shoulders with the local chamber of commerce. And like, I just don't think that's true at all. And I even said something to this effect last week. I was at an event called Founder Summit, where it was all founders, which was really neat because founders are like rare creatures. There's literally like 1% of the population is a founder. The power law will never change. It will always be a small group. And I was at this summit and people were talking about comparing themselves to friends who they think are more successful or whatever. And there's this word of like peaking in athletics, usually physical health. I peaked at age 15, or as a gymnast, or let's say, or I peaked at age 24 as a football player. But I think with entrepreneurship, it's not about our physical limitations. It's about our brain and our spirit and our creativity, which can grow over time. And so instead of peaking, I would use the word bloom or blossom. And I think that we all bloom at different stages in our life, different ages. And what's really neat about it, in my opinion, and this is my encouragement to everyone, is that the later you blossom, the longer it sticks around.